Lila was found wrapped in a hospital blanket, barely a day old, placed on the steps of the city's children's clinic. It was a cold morning, quiet except for the distant sounds of early buses and the occasional footsteps of nurses beginning their shifts. One of those footsteps belonged to Grace, a woman who had already known her share of loss, carrying the silence of a miscarriage that had taken her only child years ago. She didn't expect to find anything that morning except her usual routine, but when her eyes met the small bundle outside the door, something inside her cracked open, not with panic or pity, but with a trembling tenderness she hadn't felt in years. The baby wasn't crying, just blinking slowly, almost as if waiting for something or someone. They named her Lila at the hospital. No one came forward, no letters, no notes, just a perfectly healthy girl left behind without explanation. The nurses spoke in hushed tones, filling in the blanks with sympathy and assumptions, but Grace didn't entertain any of it. Instead, she came every day to hold Lila during her shifts, singing quietly under her breath. No promises were made, yet every moment wove something invisible but strong between them. After 6 weeks, and many internal battles, Grace made the decision that changed both their lives. She adopted Lila, legally and wholeheartedly. Friends asked if she was sure, being a single woman, working long hospital hours, carrying wounds of her own. But Grace always said, "Love doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It shows up when someone needs it." Growing up, Lila didn't know any of this. Not at first. Her world was bedtime stories, warm tea with honey when she was sick, and the soft rustle of Grace's nurse scrubs when she tiptoed into her room at night to check if she was still covered. But sometimes, even in the warmth of that home, a quiet feeling drifted in. It came during school projects about family trees, or when a stranger would comment, "She doesn't look like you." Those moments didn't stay long, but they left questions behind, like small seeds buried in soft soil. Grace noticed, she always did, but she didn't push. Instead, she planted something else: birthday letters, written each year and saved in a wooden box. Letters Lila wasn't to open until she turned 18, each sealed with a different colored ribbon, waiting for a future conversation. But for now, Lila was just a child wrapped in warmth, unaware of the silence she came from, and the unbreakable love that chose her. The questions didn't begin all at once. They crept in slowly, like evening shadows that stretch longer as the sun fades. Lila was 13 when she first asked, not looking at Grace, just staring at the kitchen tile while peeling an orange. "Did my mom, the real one, ever want to know me?" Grace, caught in the moment, didn't answer right away. She just placed her hand gently over Lila's and said, "I don't know, sweetheart, but I always wanted to." That should have been enough. For a time, maybe it was. But the older Lila got, the more the silence from her past grew louder than the love that had filled her present. By 16, Lila had become more withdrawn. She began keeping things from Grace, not out of rebellion, but because her heart was in conflict. A quiet storm brewed beneath her calm surface. She had found a forum online, adoptees searching for their birth parents, stories of reunions, of closure, of hurt. And she wondered, what if my story is different? What if the woman who left me had a reason? One day, without telling Grace, Lila submitted a request for birth records through a private agency. Weeks passed before a slim envelope arrived. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. The results were nothing, no names, no family connections, just mother unknown. Her stomach dropped. She had imagined something, anything, a clue, a thread to pull. But this was emptiness sealed in paper. She didn't cry. Not then. Instead, she shoved the envelope into the back of her closet and pretended it didn't exist. But from that day on, something between her and Grace shifted. Lila no longer met her eyes. She came home late. Her laughter faded into politeness. Grace tried to reach her. She'd leave small notes on the kitchen table. "Dinner's warm. Missed you today." But they went unanswered. Grace didn't push. She just kept the light on. Then, college applications arrived. Every essay prompt seemed to ask, "Who are you?" Lila would sit at her desk for hours, staring at a blank screen. Her thoughts were tangled. How could she answer when she didn't even know where her story began? One night, overwhelmed and raw, she snapped at Grace, "You're not my real mom. You don't know what it's like to not know who you are." The words hung in the air like broken glass. Grace didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just whispered, "Maybe I don't, but I know what it's like to love someone more than anything, even when they can't see it." And with that, she left the room, not in anger, but in sorrow. Lila sat alone that night, heart heavy with guilt and confusion, not yet knowing the gift that waited for her in a small wooden box under her bed. Lila didn't sleep that night. The silence in her room was different, deeper, heavier. She replayed Grace's voice in her mind, soft and trembling, carrying decades of patience. She looked toward her closet, where the empty birth record file sat buried, but her eyes drifted to something else instead. The wooden box. She had always known about it. Grace never hid it, only said, "When the time feels right, open it." Lila had planned to wait until her 18th birthday, still months away, but that night, the ache in her chest led her hands to it. Almost instinctively, she pulled it onto her lap, brushing dust from the lid. Inside were 17 envelopes each, labeled with a year, tied with a ribbon in a shade that matched something from her life. Blue for year 1, yellow for year 7, the year she danced in the sun during their summer road trip. Grace had remembered it all. She picked year 10 when she broke her arm falling off a bike and had cried, not from pain, but from embarrassment. Grace had held her then, whispering, "No one strong ever became that way without falling." The letter was simple. "You hated the cast. You said it made you look weak, but I saw your strength in the way you laughed through it, in how you didn't stop riding. That's what I love most about you, Lila. You fall, but you always get up." Tears blurred her vision. She opened more letters, each one revealing not just memories, but evidence. Evidence of a love that had been active, attentive, and unwavering. From first steps to first heartbreaks, Grace had been recording her journey, every lesson, every tear, every proud moment. Then she opened the final one, the only one that wasn't numbered. It was written differently, in ink that trembled more than the others, the paper thinner, as if Grace had rewritten it many times before sealing it. "If you're reading this, it means you're hurting, and I wish I could take that pain away. But you deserve to know this. I didn't give birth to you, but I chose you every single day. From the first time I held you, I knew you were mine, not by blood, but by heart. You are my daughter, and there has never been a moment I didn't love you." Lila broke, not from pain this time, but from the sudden release of everything she had held in. The years of questions, of doubts, of feeling not enough, all washed away by the words she had always needed to hear. She rushed into the hallway, still in tears, and found Grace sitting at the kitchen table, hands clasped, eyes tired. Lila didn't speak. She just wrapped her arms around her, tighter than she ever had before. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And Grace, with the same steady warmth, simply said, "Welcome home." That fall, Lila started volunteering at the hospital, holding babies who had no names, just like she once had. But now, she knew, love isn't about where you begin, it's about who stays. Sometimes, the loudest questions in our hearts are answered not by searching outward, but by turning inward to the quiet acts of love that have been there all along. Lila's story reminds us that being chosen is a powerful form of being loved. Blood may begin a life, but love is what shapes it. And in a world full of uncertainty, knowing someone chose to stay, to hold you through it all, that is unbreakable. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a little light. Like, comment, or subscribe to hear more stories like this, real, raw, and unforgettable.